Hi, everyone, and welcome to the March BigCommerce Town Hall. My name is Lauren Clevenger, and I'm the Community Manager here at BigCommerce. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you've been to Town Hall before, you know that we've got a lot of great stuff to cover, but before we get started, I always like to take just a couple minutes to review our agenda and discuss how you can participate during today's Town Hall. So let's check out that agenda. So we're going to kick things off today with a welcome and an update from our CEO, Brent Bellum, who you see on the screen with me now. You'll also be hearing from our CPO, Jimmy Duvall. Then we'll welcome Chris Beckett. He's the Director of Information Security here at BigCommerce, and he's going to join us to share some very important information around GDPR compliance for merchants in the EU. And then next, Paul Valancourt. He is the SVP of Customer Success Services at BigCommerce. He'll be joining us to talk about our efforts to provide localized phone support for Australian merchants. After that, we'll dive into the latest product updates. So first, we'll discuss all the upcoming exciting changes to our platform, and then we're going to take a look at just a couple of updates that are specifically relevant for our international audience that's on the line today. After that, we'll transition to Q&A. So we've received some great questions over email and in the BigCommerce community. We'll go through and answer those first, and then we'll wrap up with live Q&A. So if time permits, we'll do our best to address as many live questions as we can during today's webinar. So let's talk about how you can submit your questions. So if you are looking for more information or maybe clarification about something that we're discussing today, go ahead and submit your questions to us directly via the online GoToWebinar control panel. You'll see there's an area that is just called questions, and you can use that to privately chat us your questions. Our community team is behind the scenes and ready to hear from you. We'll be collecting, responding to you, compiling everything, and hopefully addressing as many of those live Q&As on air. So I know I already mentioned this. We've got a ton of updates to cover today and a lot of folks that are in attendance. So sometimes that makes it difficult to address every single question that we receive. If we're not able to get to your question, your best bet is to head over to the BigCommerce community. Just visit forum.bigcommerce.com. Be sure to log in. You can navigate to the groups area, and we've got a dedicated space for town hall conversation. That's where we'll be right after this webinar wraps up, so we can continue the conversation with you there. Lastly, a couple of quick housekeeping items. You might have noticed already that all attendees today are muted except for our presenters from BigCommerce. And again, if you have questions, thoughts, or comments, we still want to hear them. Just send them to us via GoToWebinar or share them in the community. With that, let's go ahead and get started. Brent, I'm going to pass things over to you.
Thanks, Lauren, and thanks to all of you who have joined us. As usual, we have well more than 1,000 registrations for today's town hall, and we're honored that you'd spend the extra time with us. The theme this time will have a bit of an emphasis or orientation around things that we do to serve our customers who are outside the United States or who are in the United States and selling to international audiences. But there's plenty of interest here regardless of where you are located. As a little bit of background on BigCommerce, today a little less than a quarter of our merchant base is outside the US, even though we are headquartered in the US and have been for a long time. Many of you may not know that our company was originally founded by two Australians in Sydney, Australia, Eddie McElhaney and Mitch. And they basically had a pre-existing business and service called Interspire, and then started to launch BigCommerce back in 2009. The product went live to market in 2010 and absolutely took off almost overnight, especially in the United States. And so in 2011, they moved the headquarters to the US, Austin, Texas, to be precise, and have since taken nearly all the venture capital money here in the US. But we today still have a very strong presence in Australia, an office in Sydney with something like 60 people. We're heavy in product and engineering and in technical operations there, but also have a full-featured business and support team, and Paul Valancourt will say more about our support later in this call. We also plan to very soon launch a major presence in Europe, starting in London. We actually have the rec out for a head of Europe and are already starting to talk to candidates for that. I think it's only a matter of weeks or months before we are operating with feet on the ground in Europe. We already have thousands of customers there, but historically have not had a presence in Europe, and very excited to launch that. For those of you wondering, how international in mindset can BigCommerce be, noting what I've already said, I would add to all of this that I myself am an international relations major, as is my wife. I lived and studied in Germany and Switzerland. When I was in college, I ran PayPal Europe for 4 years out of Ireland and Luxembourg, and turned that into a very, very big and profitable business. In fact, a business that is many times larger than what BigCommerce is today. And also, when I was president and COO of HomeAway, I had responsibility for all of their businesses and market-leading vacation rental websites across Europe, South America, Australia, New Zealand, Asia, all of that. So this is stuff that we as a company know how to do. We know how to serve customers internationally, and we're very much looking forward to expanding our presence around the world to serve you. With that, Lauren, let me just share a couple new launches. And on the first page, particularly emphasize 2 non-US sites that have launched. So Skullcandy is the very popular and market-leading headphone and speaker brand, especially for active lifestyles, skateboarders, skiers, stuff like that. They launched their .com first, and now the Canadian site is live with many others to follow. I would highlight Jasper, the PIM that they used, a Canadian-based company, and partnered Zane Ray. Skullcandy, by the way, came over to us from Demandware, and I think it's a real testament to the product and platform that all of our customers use. It's the same platform that you're using is what Skullcandy uses, and they chose to move to us over a platform in Demandware that costs many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year minimum. So excited about that. Julius Morrow is an Australian seller of shoes for the modern man. It's been around for a very long time. It's a very well-known brand in Australia. Thanks to Fusion Factory for that. Next page. Theme on this page is beauty and cosmetics, and 3 very big and well-known brands. Gerard out of LA has a cult following. It's a phenomenal cosmetics brand. You see the apps they used in Silk Software helped bring them live. Bliss is an extremely well-known spa that now has a very successful line of beauty products. Shipper HQ and Horizon. And then Savannah Bee Company is a great one out of Savannah, Georgia, with the Apson Oakworks partner. And then 3 final merchants on the next page, Lighting Zoo, CVF Racing, and one that really caught my attention, Hampy Dairy Supply. That, in fact, is the picture of a cow milking bucket. And, I grew up a little bit on a farm in my early years. My dad's side are all farmers, but we were not dairy farmers. And so if you put one of those in front of me, I would not know how to use it, but I'm sure glad for the people who do, because I drink my milk every morning. With that, I will hand it over to Chris and take it away on GDPR.
Hi, everyone. We're here to talk about GDPR. We've only got a few minutes, so we're going to start what's going to be a week-long push for GDPR information for our clients. So GDPR is the European Union's General Data Protection Regulation. It replaces the previously stated Data Protection Directive, which used to be an EU law. It's a comprehensive data privacy regulation focused on protecting individual rights. It comes from a very long storied history revolving around the UN the UN human rights regulations. So who does this law really apply to? It really applies to businesses that are incorporated in the EU or doing business in the EU, and companies that market specifically to EU citizens, whether or not they're actually in the EU themselves. To specifically market to EU citizens, that's usually understood to be having like a .de or another localized domain name, or having localized web content in your website or marketing material itself into a language that's used by a member state. So the law comes into effect on May 25th of 2018, and it comes with it quite a number of possible consequences of non-compliance, which are some astronomical fines in the order of up to $20 million or 4% of global revenue. So the EU is really, really pushing the importance of this and how important data privacy is. So let's have a look at who is involved. So the main players in this are the data subject, is the individual whom you're collecting the data information from. The Data Protection Authority, it's the government body that ensures compliance, researches and investigates non-compliance. The data controller, which would be, in this case, primarily merchants yourselves, who collect information from data subjects. And then data processors, which in this case would be BigCommerce. Data controllers may have a number of data processors that do infrastructure-related things or other processing of data for them. In this case, BigCommerce is running your website, so you're still the data controller. You're collecting the information. You're who the data subject has a relationship with, and they know who you are. And we're just kind of processing behind the scenes. We store and process that data in accordance with your specific regulations and requirements. Can we just jump onto the next slide? So the kind of 6 simple steps that you need to take to kind of achieve compliance for the GDPR would be to appoint a privacy leader or a DPO where the law specifically requires that, to make a solid inventory of your data, know how data comes into your infrastructure or into your business, how it's processed by your business, and then when it leaves your business, like when you either share it to third parties like BigCommerce to manage on your behalf, or when you send it to marketing lists and other vendors. So that dovetails into the 3rd step, which is to manage your vendors' compliance. So in this case, GDPR can't be fully outsourced to another party. BigCommerce can't do it for you, but we can make it as easy as possible. As long as we're your primary vendor for your e-commerce requirements, we will be doing everything that we can to be GDPR compliant, even though we are located in the US and our servers are primarily located in the US. We will be compliant with the US EU Data Shield legislation, which allows us to have a adequacy agreement so that that cross-border isn't an issue. We're also doing everything we can to maintain our own GDPR compliance internally. So you need to manage your vendors to make sure that they're compliant, that they're holding your data at the same level of protection that you are. You need to update your privacy notice. There have been a number of changes from the Data Protection Directive, and so updating a privacy notice for those new regulations is really, really important. Specifically things around how to get in contact with your business, the amount of time in which you will respond to data subject access requests, and that's basically how a data subject kind of asks you to complete one of their rights for them. Lets you know that they want to be forgotten or they want to correct some data that you're holding. You need to include privacy requirements within your business processes. So this is taken to mean that when you start new projects within your company, you need to think about the privacy requirements of the legislation in those projects. So doing a data protection impact assessment is kind of the piece that you need to do there. So anytime you start up a new project that's going to involve processing or moving personal data around, you need to do a quick assessment. The privacy leader should be involved in this, where they do a quick assessment to understand what the legislative requirements are and if you're allowed to do it or what compensating controls need to be in place. And then 6, finally, is maintaining your data handling process documentation. So ensuring that your data inventory is up to date, ensuring that every time you do your data impact assessments, your privacy impact assessments, that you maintain that documentation so that if a data protection authority comes to you and asks, hey, we've got a complaint from a data subject, they say that you aren't doing this correctly, you can show them, yes, we're doing it, here's where we've documented how we've thought about it and what we're doing to maintain that control. So after this, that's not a lot of information, but we've got a very short time. After this, we're moving to the community. There's a privacy and security group. We're going to be taking live Q&A there. We'll be releasing a blog post with a lot more information next week. We're also going to be doing a lot more video and some other information to really get as much information to you as we can in as short as time possible. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Chris.
I'll just add to what Chris said. Thanks, Chris. The so what of all of that is if you're a European-based business, then nothing we just talked about comes as a surprise, because this is hugely important, really essential to doing business legally in Europe. For folks that are not based in Europe, you've probably also heard about it if you are serving European customers. The so what of all of this is that as your e-commerce platform, BigCommerce is achieving GDPR compliance on your behalf. There are still steps that you need to take per what Chris outlined, but you can count on us to be doing our part in time for the law change, and that's great news for you, because there are probably very many technology vendors and solutions around the world who will not be compliant at the time the law goes into effect. We will, and credit our team for working hard to keep you, in good shape with respect to that. Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Valancourt, our Global Head of Customer Success Services.
Thank you, Brent. Hello, everyone. It's great to be with you at this town hall. I've got just about a minute or so of a very quick update to let you know what we're doing to localize support here as we expand. We've gotten a lot of feedback from partners and merchants telling us they'd really like to have us located in Sydney and in other locations. Well, I'm happy to say that we have been active in Sydney with tech support and enterprise account management since October. We have not only hired our own local folks there to provide that support, but we also sent there our top technicians, our top engineering, product support engineers, and training folks to make sure that we got them up to speed, and they've gotten the most intense training and tutelage of any new hires that we've had in our tech support operation. We've got marvelous turnaround times. We answer the phone there with our Ninja there, and we still have folks here based in the US 7x24 to take overflow. So even in your overnights, our daytimes, we have folks here, and we also have folks our overnights, your daytimes, to back them up. So we're full service 24/7 with the primary routing going to our Sydney-based team. And then finally, as we've gotten this wrapped up, we've gotten extremely positive feedback. We survey every contact that we get, and we're really happy to say that those folks that have been using us have been extremely satisfied and are telling us so. It's a really great thing to have folks there providing support to the stores, the merchants, the partners, implementation, project management services, and enterprise account management services. The phone number to contact Australia support can be found in your control panel or on the Contact Us section of our website. And there will be more to come. As Brent mentioned, we'll be part of the expansion in Europe, and we look forward to providing continued excellent services for you. Thanks, and I'm going to now hand it over to Jimmy Duval.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Hey, everyone. Pretty quick from my side this time. Really here to introduce a team that's going to walk through for you a number of updates. So today we're going to walk through a number of updates. The first is going to be Stevie. She's joining us from our Austin office. We're going to talk a fair amount about our marketplace redesign for our App Store. A lot of great things happening there, and so she's going to walk you through some of that. Juan's going to join you from our San Francisco office. We've got some good updates on AMP, which is the mobile accelerated pages, as well as some updates to Stencil. Charles is going to then join us from our Sydney office to talk about checkout, some fun and exciting things that we're doing there. Troy then is going to talk about a few things, some Google Shopping updates, as well as really dive into a little bit more depth on our international support, as well as some international news that we have around Instagram. And then we'll follow up at the end with Tim talking a little bit about some payment options that we've launched recently. In these webinars and town halls, we only have a limited time to cover a lot of updates that are going on around the product. I really encourage you to go out to the community forums. There's a lot of conversation happening there. As an example, We launched our stored credit card capabilities, vaulting as it's so called, recently, and there's a lot of good discussion going on there, as well as discussion about some of the new features and enhancements that we're working on to support you and your business. So by no means is this inclusive of everything that we're working on. So join us over in the forums in the community section, and we'll go ahead and try to interact with you there as well outside of this forum. So with that, Stevie, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jimmy. Yes, my name is Stevie Huva. I'm the product manager over our apps and themes marketplaces here at BigCommerce, and we have been working for the last several months behind the scenes on a complete redesign of the apps marketplace. And the focus was really on improving discoverability, as well as just bringing the look and feel kind of into the more modern mobile-first era. So there's a lot of changes coming, and I won't cover all of them, but I wanted to give you a few highlights. And just as a reminder for merchants, our apps marketplace is basically where third-party technologies who have built extensions that play really nicely with BigCommerce can list their technology, and you can kind of find solutions for business problems that come up. Next slide, please. So one of the first things we focused on was discoverability. And talking to merchants, we sort of realized that we've got this really great technology ecosystem, but sometimes finding the exact right app for your specific use case can be a little bit difficult because there's a lot there. So we focused on some merchandising tools that would help us highlight some featured apps, really provide more active recommendations, and curate some kind of top apps in certain categories so you could easily find what you're looking for. Next slide. As you move through that discovery flow and get to things like search results pages or app listing pages, you can see that we've really kind of completely reskinned how that's going to look with a focus on providing more information. So made those logos a little bit smaller, a little bit cleaner, pulled a lot more information up onto these search results pages so you can get a quick summary about the app, some badging to understand maybe what tier, you could see how many reviews someone's had, all that kind of stuff. And then on a hover state, you can even get some additional pricing information or trial information. Next slide. Yeah, there you go. So as you continue through, moving through the marketplace, the app detail page is, it's probably looking pretty different than the one you're used to. And we added a ton of features here, again, just focused on getting you more information about the apps. So a dedicated area for more images and videos, more significant descriptive text areas and feature areas, with the idea that we want to be able to provide you more information with which to make an app installation decision. All kinds of additional pricing information, partner information, including their support contact paths and all that good stuff. So when is this all happening? So we expect early Q2, so coming up really quickly here for you to see those changes. We've already sent out formal communications to the technology partners. So if you're a tech partner that's listening in, please double check your inbox for that information. But for our merchants, you should see some changes in the apps marketplace, which is bigcommerce.com/apps, here in early Q2. And I think I'll kind of give a disclaimer that this is going to be a pretty dramatic look and feel change, but it's not the last of the work that we're doing. So this is kind of a complete reskin, some additional features, but we'll continue talking to you guys, the merchants, taking a lot of data and iterating on this to get closer and closer to our goals of making sure that you have the ability to really quickly find the apps you might need. And you can see there at the bottom as well, we are not just leaving the apps marketplace looking good. We're going to be tackling the theme marketplace as well pretty soon. So same idea, focusing on discoverability, understanding what features a theme might have so you can make a decision on the right one for you. And that's all for me.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Stevie. Hello, everyone. I have some exciting news to share around Google AMP. For those of you that don't know, Google AMP is an open source framework launched by Google to improve the performance of the mobile web and deliver any mobile pages extremely fast to the mobile devices. When the AMP pages are available on Google search results, Google would actually serve these pages directly from their own CDN. This could have a tremendous impact on displaying, imagine, store products to your shoppers instantly on their devices. So starting this week, we are releasing our first native integration of Google AMP on categories and product pages to all of our Stencil stores. Some key points for Google AMP are that you can enable Google AMP directly from the control panel. It is also suggested and highly recommended that you insert your Google tracking ID, and actually it might be a separate Google tracking ID for tracking the conversion of Google AMP pages. And once you have this feature enabled, basically you can start validating your pages. You will introduce a new URL path to your store /AMP that will serve the AMP content directly from Google. The AMP content can also be validated through the Google Validator. And the last part to this is that this change requires also some theme updates. And I'm really happy to announce that 27 of our theme marketplace themes are actually already supporting Google AMP today with this release. So please send us all your feedback about this feature. And I'm looking forward to hear what you guys think. And all the team here is very excited about this announcement. So this is my update for Google AMP. Another update that I have for you today is around Stencil. And this is a community-driven feature, which is supporting multiple wish lists on Stencil. This feature actually will be available on the next release of Cornerstone. And through adding multiple wish lists, basically the shoppers can now add a product or multiple products to one or several wish lists directly from the quick view or the product page. We're actively working with all of the theme authors in order to leverage this functionality into other themes, Stencil themes. So thank you so much for all the feedback, and really happy to share this with you. So that's basically my update with wishlist. Now I'm gonna leave you with Charles, who is gonna give you an update on optimized one-page checkout.
Thanks, Juan. Hi, everyone. This is Charles, Product Manager for Cart and Checkout. So I'd like to provide an update on the optimized version of our one-page checkout. This checkout has been available for some time now under the banner of Early Access. Some of you are already using it, but if you're not or new to the platform, you can opt into it through our control panel under Checkout Settings. We've seen a very positive uptake of optimized checkout by merchants. So we're really excited to announce that in a few weeks, we'll be taking off the Early Access label from it and provision new stores with optimized checkout as the default checkout type. Existing checkouts will still be available. This checkout will only affect new stores. Optimized checkout adopts industry best practices in design. We've seen as a result of this faster checkout times compared to our legacy checkout system. Shoppers also benefit from the checkout's mobile optimized design, allowing them to comfortably check out on any device. We support payment providers that are not available on our legacy system, such as Square Payments V2, Klarna Payments, Amazon Pay, and if you're in Australia, Afterpay, just to name a few. We've also heavily invested in the way you can customize checkout. Now, with optimized one-page checkout, if you are using the Stencil theme, you have the flexibility to make lightweight modifications using our theme editor, things such as changing fonts and colors and adding your logo, that kind of stuff. And for those developers on the call, you can build custom checkout experiences on top of the BigCommerce platform using our checkout web APIs. Finally, we've seen merchants customize the checkout using its multi-language feature so that the checkout can be displayed in different languages. This is great if you do business overseas internationally, as shoppers can check out in the selected language when you've made that language part of the store's theme. So lots of design improvements, and we'll continue to improve and iterate. So do check out the other features available. So that's the update for optimized checkout. And now I hand over to Troy to talk about Google Shopping.
Hi, everyone. My first update is on Google Shopping. We know that this is an essential and important channel for the vast majority of you, so just want a quick update here. There have been a couple ways, or at least multiple ways, to connect your BigCommerce store to Google Merchant Center and effectively Google Shopping for a while. One of those options was an app built by Google themselves. And if you were using that app, you've probably and ideally been notified recently from both us and from Google that they are no longer supporting that, and effectively they've end-of-lifed their app. And so this is just a quick call out to recommend an alternative solution. We're recommending an app from a company called Sales and Orders. It's highly recommended by us, by Google. If you go look at the app in the app marketplace, you'll see tons and tons of positive reviews from existing merchants. And speaking to the Sales and Order, they're great to work with. And speaking to them recently, they asked me to remind you that they do offer free onboarding. And if you are migrating from the old Google app, they're more than happy to help migrate from the old app onto their app. So head to our app marketplace. If you search for Google Shopping, the Sales and Order app will come up. And so that's the update on Google Shopping. Next, we want to move to the international section. And so like Brent was saying at the top of the call, this is the first of many in the future where we're going to take one town hall per quarter and dedicate a portion of that town hall to talk about content and updates specifically related to merchants operating outside the US or selling to customers outside the US. And so the first update I want to share is regarding our continued partnership with Instagram around the international expansion of shopping on Instagram. We're pretty excited about this. We talk a lot on the town hall about, and then on our blog and other forums, about the power of omni-channel commerce, because we know that today's modern consumer has many touch points on the path to purchase, right? It might be on a marketplace like Amazon or eBay, or it might be on your branded storefront. And now you can add Instagram to that as one of those channels. And what's great about this channel is it lets your customers browse your products or explore your products in within the Instagram experience. And so this really immersive experience is great for not only growing your brand, but driving traffic to your website and ultimately increasing sales. And so you can see by the screenshot here, this is a merchant who's got 3 products for sale in this photo, and it lights up because this product's been enabled, or this photo's been enabled for shopping, and just allows the person who's viewing this photo to tap on any of those to get more information and ultimately purchase. Now, we launched this in the US back in October in partnership with Instagram. And you can see some of the stats there on the screen. These are from some of our merchants in the US. Now, these are their self-reported stats. Obviously, some of these are on low basis, but it really speaks to the power of this channel and how great it is at growing your brand, driving traffic to your website, and really driving increased sales. So which countries is it available in? If we advance to the next slide. These are the countries and currencies where it's now supported. This is available now. So what this is saying is if you are a merchant based in Australia and you have your default currency set to AUD or any of the other countries or currencies listed in here, shopping on Instagram is now available to you. Now, there are a couple other requirements which we'll talk about in a second, but effectively, if you're one of these operating in these countries with those currencies, head over to the BigCommerce control panel, head to Channel Manager. And from there, if we advance to the next slide, the first thing you want to do is connect your BigCommerce store to Facebook, right? Because we know that Instagram is a part of Facebook. And so first step is within Channel Manager, connecting to Facebook. What that process will do is upload your catalog within BigCommerce to Facebook, where they will start to review your catalog for eligibility for shopping on Instagram. In the meantime, head over to Instagram on the app. What you want to do there is either convert your private or your personal Instagram account to a business account or set up a new business account. Once you've done that, head to your profile inside the Instagram app and connect your Facebook account to your Instagram business account. Now, we guide you through this experience when you connect your store to the channel within the control panel, so you don't really have to take a lot of notes here. Also, we've got great knowledge base articles in our support forum that will guide you through this process. So once you've done that, we just need to wait for Facebook and Instagram to approve your catalog. And the last step is then to tag your photos with the products that have been uploaded. And so that's simply a matter of navigating through these screens here. It's very easy to do. And once you've done that, if you advance to the next screen, this is the experience that your customers or prospective customers will see. So again, within the immersive Instagram experience, they'll come across your photos. If those photos contain products which you have tagged, they'll get the Tap to View Products button there. You can see tapping that lights up the various products that have been enabled for purchase. Tapping on that takes you to effectively a product detail page within Instagram where your customer can get more information about the product. And of course, the big blue bar there, Shop Now. Tapping there takes you to the product detail page on your BigCommerce website where they can complete the purchase. So like I said, if you are looking to kind of grow your brand, drive traffic to your website, this is a really great channel to do that. So highly recommend, if you're in one of those supported countries, to check this out. And so that's the update on Instagram. With that, I will turn it over to Tim to give us an update on our new payment integration in Australia and New Zealand.
Hey everyone, so I'm Tim Crapo. I'm one of the product managers here at BigCommerce. It's great to be here with all of you, and I'm excited to announce support for eWay's newest payment gateway within the platform, Rapid 3.1. So for those of you who might not be familiar with eWay, they're actually a major payment provider and gateway in the Australian and New Zealand market. They process actually 1 in 4 transactions in Australia. So we're really excited to be offering them as an option, their newest gateway as an option on the platform. So just a few details about it. The Rapid Gateway will be available to all of our Australian and New Zealand merchants, and it is available exclusively in our optimized one-page checkout that Charles was just telling you about. A few other call-outs. Sign up is super easy and fast with them. You'll get access to your funds within 1 to 3 days. And one of the great things about eWay is their comprehensive fraud prevention package, Beagle as they call it. And you get access to that by using Rapid, so it's a really great benefit to you. Aside from that, we're also supporting, or the platform will support integrated refunds, which will save you time. You don't have to bounce between our order management system and the eWay dashboard. You can do everything in one place. And then, of course, whenever you need help, they've got 24/7 local support. One other note that I'd make about it, some of you actually may be using older versions of the eWay New Zealand and eWay Australia payment gateway in our platform today. When we roll this out over the next 2 to 3 weeks, we will also have support documentation that talks through all of the steps that you need to take to go and upgrade to the 3.1 experience so that you get to take advantage of all of those great features. So stay tuned. We're in the process of rolling it out. We're really excited, and more to come later this year as they are building out more fraud functionality that will give us a tighter integration within the BC platform. So with that being said, I will turn it back over to Lauren for the Q&A portion of the session. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you to all of our other product managers on the line today giving such great updates. Let's move into community Q&A. So again, these are the questions that either you submitted over email or in our community forum ahead of time. So we're going to go through those first. Troy, this is a good one for you to start off with. Can you give us an update on multi-store functionality?
Definitely, yeah. You know, we will have a lot more to say about this in the coming months. But what I can say now, you know, the use cases that this helps to solve are things like if you want to have different websites for different languages, so multi-language, multi-currency. If you want to do wholesale and retail and have different websites, it helps with that. If you're launching a new brand or category, you might want to have a dedicated microsite to something like that. And so this is kind of the functionality that helps solve those use cases. We are actively making significant investments in this, and like I said, we'll have more to say in the coming months. But what I would say today is, we have many merchants on the platform today that are doing this. On the low end, we have, if you think about the wholesale retail use case, lots and lots of merchants are using our customer groups capability to do that. We can have, for the wholesale side, you can have a special login, and based on login, you'll get special pricing and see different products than what you would see on the retail site. And then all the way up to the higher end, and Brent mentioned some of these examples at the top of the call today, like Skull Candy and others, where they're using tools like Jasper, which is a PIM, to connect multiple BC stores to do this. Now, obviously, we want to make that a lot easier so that it's a single BigCommerce backend that still takes advantage of the power of these great tools. But like I said, we'll have lots more to say about this in the coming months, but do know that we are making significant investments in this area.
Okay, thanks. Next question is pretty similar. What about multi-currency support?
Yeah, this is very much related to the previous question. The platform today offers what we call multi-currency display. So we allow you to define multiple currencies, and we can display your product prices in multiple currencies. But as soon as your customer goes through checkout, ultimately we go back to your default currency and process all transactions in that default currency. We will iterate towards true multi-currency. As an example, you most likely will see us with solutions like Braintree and Adyen and others. They have, as part of their solution, they allow you to transact in multiple currencies but settle in your single default currency. So we will look at that as our first step. So you might, present your prices in multiple currencies. The customer will pay in their local currency, but ultimately the transaction, Braintree or whoever will do the foreign exchange and process or settle the transaction back into your default currency. Again, actively making investments here, and we'll have a lot more to say about this in future town halls.
All right. Charles, I think my next question is for you. When will BigCommerce adopt the standard 2-letter codes for US states and checkout?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. Right now, we don't have plans to adopt the 2-letter code for US states in our checkout. But we are open to adding this feature in if we see an increasing number of customers requesting it. So if you'd like to see this feature, please submit and vote for it in the ideas site in the BigCommerce community.
Thanks so much. All right, next up, Troy, I think this will be a good one for you. This merchant is looking for more information around a new setting that's in V2 of Square Payments. It's the ability to add a store location.
Yeah, admittedly, we can do more to explain this and set context, and I will definitely take this back to the team and do that. Effectively, what's happened here is the new V2 API that we're connecting to for Square Payments is a brand new API, and one of the benefits of it is that connecting to it connects to all parts of Square, including inventory, payments, orders, customers, and everything. Our integration around payments is the first part of our platform that's taking advantage of the new Square V2 API. One of the requirements of the new V2 API is that as part of the connection process, it requires us to define which inventory location on the Square side you want to connect this store to. Acknowledging here that this is out of context in the payments area, it was one of those requirements we had to live with to get the new payments integration up to date. We are working with Square to make this simpler and even upgrade the other parts of our Square integration to take advantage of this new API, with the expectation that this location setting will move into the inventory part of BigCommerce. So that's kind of the background and context for that.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay, let's see what we've got next. Are there any plans to add a PDF button to the View Orders page in the control panel?
Yeah, I like this idea. It's a great We don't today, but what I would say is if you would like to see this, head to our ideas site and upvote this. It's certainly something we'll consider. It's a good idea. Thank you.
Great. And for those of you on the line, if you haven't used the ideas site before, that's a great place to submit feature requests to our product team. We review them every month with the product managers that you see on the line here today. And it's a really great gauge to see what the demand is around certain features. So we definitely want to see your ideas and your votes and comments there. It's very helpful to the teams. Okay, Juan, this is probably a good one for you. Can we get a little bit more information on why merchants can no longer use banners on a brand page?
Sure. Yeah, this is this is a great question, and thank you for bringing this up. We noticed that there was an issue reported, and I believe this is the same one that I responded actually today on the forum. It's an issue that is affecting Blueprint stores, not displaying banners on brand pages. Right now, the team is actively looking into what platform changes might have originated this change. And I will definitely circle back with the community on the findings that we obtain, but we're actively working on it. So I don't have an exact resolution, but we're actively committed to finding the resolution.
Thank you, Juan. All right, that was our last pre-submitted question. So we've got a good solid almost 15 minutes here to move into live Q&A. So this is where we're going to be addressing those questions that you've been submitting to us live via the GoToWebinar control panel. So let's take a look at what we've got. The first question, Juan, I'll keep you in the hot seat answering questions. We've got a stencil question for you.
Awesome.
So this question is, I'm curious how Stencil's language localization functionality affects SEO. Does the localization create unique URLs or a subdomain, or is it actually translating the pages on the fly but keeping the URLs the same?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. When Stencil, the localization support for Stencil actually uses what is called the accept language header. And what this header does is basically every time a page coming in from a different locale is requesting the URL, then through this header we can determine if there is a localization, a translation for this particular page. So the answer is we don't serve the page from any subdomain. The page is actually rendered under the same URL and on the localized language that is supported by the browser.
All right, next question is back to the GDPR update that Chris Beckett spoke to at the beginning of today's town hall. Hey, Chris. The question for you is, if we don't sell to the EU, do we need to update anything at all for GDPR?
So this is actually a really interesting question, and it speaks kind of to the heart of some of the changes that the EU have made. So specifically, recital 23 refers to whether or not processors or controllers are the law is applicable to them. So it defines that selling into the EU needs to be something that you're doing intentionally, and that intention is defined as whether you localize into a member state language that's not your own, and if you have a web address that is specific to a member state country, for instance, a .de or a .co.uk for the period of time that the UK is currently in the EU. If you aren't doing those things, if you aren't actively targeting people residing in the European Union, you're not required to meet the requirements of the GDPR.
Great, that's a helpful clarification. Thank you. And I'll take this opportunity one more time to plug that special community group that we spun up specifically for today's town hall. I believe it's called Security and Privacy. And I know we sent a link out to everybody on today's town hall. So if you have more specific use case questions, Chris is going to be online with us in the community right after today's town hall so that we can make sure we get all those questions answered, because this is important stuff. All right, let's switch over to themes. Troy, good question for you. What are your plans for improving the process for developing websites in non-English languages? For example, the ability to translate or create transactional email subject lines.
Yeah. Okay. So a few things here. Today Stencil and the optimized checkout supports any foreign language effectively, and you can do that today. And we have lots of merchants on the platform who have sites, several BigCommerce stores, each in their own language, connected with tools like Jasper and other PIMs, connecting the backends. And like I said in the question earlier, there's some active investment going on to improve that process to support multi-storefront, with one of those being multi-language. A couple other things. For the use case where you've kind of got your store in a single language and it doesn't necessarily have to be English, and you want to do cross-border, we do have a partnership with a company called Web Interpret, and we'll talk more about this in a future town hall, but it's the solution's available today. And it supports quite a number of languages and currencies, and it does it in a very SEO-friendly way. It even does the translation for you. So if you are interested in cross-border and that sounds interesting to you, head to our app marketplace to look for that. They also handle the international shipping and freight forwarding to make that seamless for you. With regard to the transactional email subject lines, that is a current limitation on the platform today, that it is hard-coded in US English, though we have about a year ago or so enabled the ability for third parties to turn off the US English emails in our platform, and then use a tool like MailChimp or Klaviyo or others to send the emails, the transaction emails, in the appropriate foreign language. We are taking that one step further relatively soon. I don't have timelines to share with you, but we will be updating our internal transactional email system to make this easier. So stay tuned for updates on that.
All right, fantastic. Now question back to optimize one-page checkout. So will Payflow Pro be added to the list of gateway providers for optimized one-page checkout?
I can take that. The answer is yes. There is a bunch of architectural things in the back end, which is probably outside the scope of this call, that we have to do to make that possible. And we're doing that in partnership with PayPal. So the intent is to do it. I don't have a timeline for you. One alternative here, if you do want to get on the optimized one-page checkout, is effectively Payflow Pro is PayPal and credit card processing. And our Braintree integration offers that and more being things like Visa Checkout and Apple Pay and other things. So that would be a consideration for you if you want to get on the optimized one-page checkout ahead of time.
Okay, great. Next question, still on optimized one-page checkout. Do you have any data that you can share on optimized one-page checkout and its conversion rates?
Yeah, I can jump in, Troy, if you want. I mean, it's an interesting one. So we actually have a ton of data. We've been in testing and in early access for quite some time. We actually have, upwards of a third of our traffic actually going through the new optimized checkout. We have a number of points of data that we're willing to share. One is we actually have time to checkout numbers between old checkout versus new on same merchant sites. There's significant speed difference between time to checkout, meaning how long does it take the consumer to go from the point of hitting kind of checkout to the point of order confirmation. We also have tremendous amounts of conversion data. We have conversion data that says in some cases it's 80 plus, 120% plus improvement. We have other cases where it's relatively flat. And the reason why it's relatively flat typically are really, really simple sites that have single products, where those products are typically a single product in the store, where conversion rate in that particular case is a very simplistic component of the site where there's not a lot of variability. For larger customers that have larger order values, you start to see the conversion rate really tick up. We don't publish those out publicly for many reasons, but we absolutely can chat with you directly feel free to reach out to us. We can talk to you directly, but also please note that as of current, we've got just over 30+% of our total volume going through the new checkout, supporting all of the new payment mechanisms, all of the new features and functions that we're developing, including things like, even Amazon Pay as an example, which has been known to significantly increase overall conversion rate, especially on mobile.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Yep.
Juan, question for you about AMP. Will product options be supported on AMP?
Actually, that's a great input. We have, when serving the products come with product options. Right now there is a way to support those. However, we are looking actually into ways to leverage new features that have been released on AMP to optimize the way that product options are handled. The primary use case in this case is that every time you select a product option, there are changes to the price, there are changes to color, the inventory and so forth. So with those product options, there are AJAX requests that are sent that to the server. And we want to optimize that, so whenever those things are available on an AMP page, those things are pre-loaded as part of the page. So yes, it's something that we're definitely looking into optimizing for future releases of AMP.
Okay, next question on wish lists. Can shoppers now add products from the wish list directly into the shopping cart? And which themes work with this feature?
Awesome. So I'm gonna switch it around. So there are two questions there. The first one around what themes. I'm gonna actually pass on that one. We know we have some themes already enabled using this feature because we released it ahead of time to theme authors. But I don't have the exact number of how many themes are supporting that as of now. We're actively working on it, and I can provide directly information to the customer who asked this question about the exact number and which themes is this feature available. As for the second part on can you add products to the cart page directly from the wish list? Right now, this is not available. Right? Basically, the customer will have to click on the product, add it to cart. So it's basically a two-step process. But if this is an interesting feature to explore, please submit it into the ideas section, and we'll be happy to evaluate it once we get enough votes.
Thank you. All right, we've got 3 minutes left. Let's see if we can do 3 or 4 more questions. Next one is about, it's an app question. Stevie, maybe this is something that you can speak to. This merchant says, we noticed that Constant Contact and MailChimp are no longer easily integrated into the back end. We're told that there is now an app that we need to use instead. Will these apps have the same ease of use as the old integration?
Yeah, actually, I think you'll probably see an improvement in ease of use. The old integrations were kind of built at a really different time in BigCommerce's growth and trajectory, and we had a kind of different strategic plan around integrations and apps. We've moved towards a really open ecosystem, and what that means for you is that Constant Contact and iContact actually built those integrations themselves, and they maintain them. So as they roll out new features or change things about their offerings, they update that integration instead of waiting for us to do it. So I think you'll probably find it's a little bit more close to the native ways that Constant Contact or MailChimp or any other app kind of works, and it stays up to date quite a bit better.
Great, sounds like good news. All right, next question, also for you, Stevie. How do you access and export customer information from the BC address book?
Well, that's a super easy one. It's actually just really easy in the control panel. I assume I'm kind of making an assumption that when you say BigCommerce address book, you mean basically the database where we store your customers' information. And so assuming that's the case, basically in the control panel, you'll navigate to the customer's menu item, and then there'll just be a little export button, and you can export to CSV, you could build your own template, or you can export to XML. Alternately, you could also access via API. So if you're looking to connect an outside system to sync regularly with that, you can do that as well.
Fantastic. Next question is on price lists. Will the price list features support the ability for wholesale customers to order in quantity increments? Also, when will price lists be rolling out?
Yeah, I can take this one. Depends what you mean by ordering in quantity increments. So the price list feature definitely supports tiered pricing. So up to this quantity, this price, up to the next quantity, the next price. It does not specifically enforce increments, meaning you have to buy in increments of 5. It does not do that. That's interesting. If feature request, if that's important to you, let's I would direct you to the ideas form to make that request and see what other interests we get in that. In terms of when it's rolling out, it's super close. It's within weeks.
Okay, let's wrap up with one final question since we're at the hour. This is about Instagram. For the Instagram integration, this merchant wants to know, is there a requirement for a certain number of followers on your Instagram account to be able to use this feature?
Yeah, I'll jump in. So we've worked very closely with Facebook. Facebook does have some requirements specifically around Instagram and making sure that the accounts are business accounts. So at the point that Facebook goes through the approval cycle, they'll determine based upon your business whether or not you're approved in order to conduct business on Instagram. It's not based upon followers. It's really just making sure that you meet the business requirements of Facebook, meaning you're a legitimate business, you have a reputable privacy policy and those sorts of things. So go ahead and submit your site, and Facebook's review process is actually very speedy, and it should get you right through the process.
All right. Thank you, Jimmy. And thank you to Brent, Chris, Paul, all of the product managers who joined us. Brent, do you have any final words to wrap us up with today?
Thanks as always to all who joined us, especially those who are abroad from the United States. This has been by far the biggest quarter of sales in the history of BigCommerce, and we hope that for as many of our customers as possible, you can say the same thing. Continued success, and we'll see you next month. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.